Hey everyone, in this video we're gonna be breaking down the following typical themes for the King's Indian defense. How to exploit the inaccurate bishop d3 move, how to master positional chess by trading your bad pieces, and at the end of the video we'll have a look on how to play against the Grand Prix setup. Opponent opens up with d4 this time, and gonna be going for the same fianchetto setup and then try to adapt according to what my opponent does, and looks like it's gonna be sort of a clean queen's pawn opening, and I think I'm just gonna go for the classical King's Indian rather than trying out sidelines such as knight e7 or perhaps knight c6 in this position that could be maybe interesting. Yeah, I'm just going for the classical version, just getting myself castled, and bishop e2 is the most common move in the position, the so-called Mar del Plata variation, but they could also do moves such as h3, the Makogonov. Yeah, those are actually the main moves. Bishop d3 is not very good though. The reason why this bishop d3 move is actually not so clever is because it's sort of losing control over the d4 square, and I think we actually get a very good version to play this move, which is not like super thematic for the opening in itself, but it works specifically very good against this bishop d3 move, because that's why like they develop the bishop to e2 normally, and I think just playing knight c6 is fine, and we're gonna be meeting d5 with bishop takes followed by knight e5, winning back the bishop pair and trading a lot of pieces in the process. Let's see what my opponent does. I have a hidden threat of knight takes on d4 because of the pin, and in case he plays like bishop e2, we're definitely down to play something like maybe takes on d5. Ooh, he goes queen e1, trying to unpin, but you can just stay there and pick up the d4 pawn, which is actually a pretty important pawn, threatening the big fork. Expecting queen e3, and I think I'm gonna be maybe going e5. e5 with knight h5 ideas. Knight's getting to f4, queen coming over. That's the plan. Could have done c5 as well. That's also perfectly playable. Could have started this way as well. e5 is the King's Indian move though. I decided to go for it. Idea would be just to get a knight over, and queen g5, queen g2 would be a checkmate. So hope we can get something like that in the near future. He should do something like this, not to get mated, but his position is still losing because he's down a pawn. So opponent goes knight d5, and I could trade, but maybe it's even trickier to go for knight h5, c6, and then the same knight f4 plan. So I'm just gonna go for that. Yeah, so this is fine, but I think we have this really nice intermezzo, and he kind of has to go back with a knight, and we get our knight or maybe even pawn to f4 with like winning position pretty much. Do I want to take with a pawn? Kind of want to take with a knight, but I think pawn is better. Also knight is covered, and I think the queen probably has to go there. Okay, just forgot about that. But the position was still, I think, dead lost at this point for my opponent. Yeah, he also resigns. Okay, opponent opening up with e4. Gonna be going for the King's Indian defense and see what setup we're gonna be running against. So we see that opponent is not really interested to play in the center. They're supposed to play with d4 and occupy the center, but I think against this we could stick with basically the same approach of going c6 d5 and perhaps getting positions that are similar to the Caro-Kann in a way. See if he goes for the en passant or not. Could have played d6 in this position as well, by the way. There was not like a huge difference. We're gonna be getting like some interesting positions because we don't have the standard bishop g4 move. We'll have to develop this way, and the idea was to play with short castle and break with f6, followed by knight f7 in some positions. But after he takes, we're pretty happy because we managed to get the bishop pair. So yeah, just picking up the bishop pair, try to play a normal game. See bishop to d3. I have an idea of swapping my bad bishop with b6, bishop a6. Not sure that's required though. Could definitely focus on breaking in the center with a move such as c5. Maybe b6, c5 might be safer not to lose that pawn in case he goes dc. Queen b6 is also a candidate usually, but it's like really situational. It's not like you should be playing queen b6 very often, and yeah, I think we're actually gonna stick with this since there's no other appealing plan that I can see. Idea to do this, and if White was playing queen e2, trying to stop me from getting bishop a6, I can meet that with a5 and then perhaps go bishop a6. So there's no really a way for him to stop it. I didn't really like bishop f5 because I can take and double up the pawns. It's definitely an option, but I think also taking some risks, which I thought they are like a bit unnecessary when we can just get the bishop to a6 in this fashion. Also need to play e6 eventually before doing bishop a6, just so that we don't allow any sort of e6 push by my opponent. Not that it's really amazing, but sometimes it can be a bit problematic, so you need to get this sort of reflex of watching out for this kind of pawn pushes. Like I go bishop a6, maybe he can go for the e6 sack and stuff like that. So now we just get pretty much a slow game, slow sort of closed middle game, where it's mostly about maneuvering and focusing on a pawn break and organizing your pieces towards that. So I think taking with a knight is generally best. Taking with the rook maybe was doable, but this felt more natural. And against a4, this actually makes me wonder whether we can just play knight b4, since that square has been a bit weakened. I'm not sure about like playing c5, weakening b5. It's not like disaster, but you always want to think twice before playing such committal moves. And could do knight b4, expecting some kind of knight d1. I think I'll do it this way. So I'll do queen c8, and I'm like keeping options. The trick here is just to exchange queen next. Either knight b4, queen a6, or knight c7, queen a6. And if they avoid the queen trade, our queen is actually decently placed there. And perhaps I'm kind of regretting my knight b4 move, because the knight could have been potentially a bit more helpful on c7 supporting the b5 push. But I think it's actually maybe a pretty close call. Not really that big of a difference, just queen a6. I don't think a4 by him was such a big mistake, as if he doesn't play a4, I might be actually having ideas to expand with moves such as maybe b5, b4, maybe b5, a4, something like that. So I think that was actually reasonable what he did. Sometimes it's true that it can be risky, but in this specific case, I think it was okay. And now he has to protect the c2 pawn, because the queens have been swapped, and I think he should do that with rook e2. But of course, most of them tend to forget about these little details. Like, he's living with the feeling that his queen from e2 is defending the pawn on c2, after he just traded queens. So these mistakes, I think, happen like very often. Just collect the free pawn, bring the knight back, go to d3 maybe, or up a pawn. Just playing solid, and yeah, just don't need to make any kind of crazy decisions. Just go for a little queen trade here and there, and that should be pretty much it. Just try to create no weaknesses, trade your bad pieces if you have some, and the position is pretty easy to convert now, I would say. Goes g4, ideas to play g5. I'm not really that concerned, because I think the bishop will easily reroute using this diagonal, and I'm thinking to actually break with b5, because c5 was the other idea I had, but giving away the b5 square, it's not something that I'm 100% sure about. So perhaps gonna do it this way, and then with b5. Actually could do it either way. Maybe I'll just play bishop f8 first, and c5, c4 ideas could potentially be very juicy, and like rook a3, could do like knight e3, or and so on. Could actually do h6. Just want to see whether he's willing to go there or not. I'm trying to misplace his knight a bit. I guess he wants to play with f4, so I think that was a bit annoying. And now just going c5, idea to go c4. I figured out this might actually be better than b5, so changed my mind a bit in the process. Threatening to push this now, and then rook a3, knight d3, hitting the rook, activating the knight, putting pressure on the b2 pawn, and on knight b5. We definitely sometimes have ideas to sack the exchange and just play that position, but I think just easier. Push c4, bring the knight to d3, could actually bring the knight to c6 as well. I guess it depends. He also can go there now. Yes, rook a3, I can play knight d3. Not sure which one is better. I'll do this. Perhaps combine it with bishop c5, just trying to get full access of the d4 square, and perhaps we can actually combine it then with an exchange sack. I think you guys will like the exchange sack that I'm about to deliver. So the plan is to go there and do this little maneuver, and I think Okay, I'm not gonna be taking the rook just because I want to be delivering the educational exchange sack. So I hope opponent will notice that his rook has been hanging for a while, and I hope he allows me to get the exchange sack in. Hope he doesn't play something like knight d4, like really forcing me to grab the exchange. But I hope he goes knight d4, which is like pretty funny. Take the pawn on e5 though. Yeah, could actually take everything. Just gonna be collecting the house at this point, and maybe we'll get the exchange sack some other time during the series. But I think would have been a pretty cool idea, just going for the rook trade, get rid of his knight with rook d1 next if he plays rook c3. After the knight moves, we are ready to play rook b3 and winning the queen side. Could have also doubled, by the way, that was also fine. Have many ways to win these positions. Yeah, just cashing in the queen side pawns, we're up an exchange and two connected passers. Gonna take this one and then push. He checks me, just gonna be attacking the knight, followed by rook takes. Then this is the plan. So he's like, the only thing that you have to watch out for is the construction where he gets the rook there and the knight to f6, which could be actually mating. So I think for the sake of the simplicity, I'm gonna be making this move, which might look crazy because I'm giving up the rook, but I know this way I'm like never getting mated. Plus I have the two pawns, the connected extra path pawns that are gonna win anyways. So I think that's actually usually a pretty clever decision, just to avoid any sort of weird tricks. Not like in this position he had any. Like I think we can safely do something like c3 and win, because there's no way for him to actually get a knight to f6 quickly. But I think you can actually learn quite a lot from this kind of decisions, that when it up so much material, you can give back a little bit of something so that you avoid any unnecessary counterplay and we get like an easy win. Okay, getting the black pieces, and against the e4, gonna be trying out King's Indian defense and see how my opponent reacts against it. Plays with f4, which is actually interesting, going for the sort of Grand Prix setup. Gonna be playing the same way, c6 d5. This is not really like optimal play, because best would be to just go c5 and get back into the Sicilian, but this is also fine, especially when they play bishop c4, allowing us to push in the center and gain a tempo. Just taking back with a pawn, attacking the bishop, and yet play knight c6 on the next move, and then we can continue with knight f6 and short castle. Sometimes you have ideas to play it this way as well when there is a target on d4, but I'm not sure he's like actually planning to play with d4, and I might be going for it myself. Could also take, could go knight f6. Many interesting options. I guess this is like very tempting, but this is pretty juicy as well, just because he's got the isolated pawn. I'm gonna go for that. Just going short castle next, and okay, can easily collect that bishop. There's like no checkmate. King g8, queen b3. I've got queen d5, and he's just a bit unlucky. Didn't even try queen b3. Gonna go king there. Gonna be bringing the pieces into the game now with like a pretty easy win with the extra piece, and he's got no threats. Bishop g4 could be next, exchanging the knight. Okay, knight e5. I mean, knight e5 can take and go for the check. Queen d4. Pick up the pawn or go like knight g4. So knight g4. Yeah, I think he mainly plays queen e2 and we can just force queens off. Queen e5. Something like that. That seems to be easiest. Otherwise, knight f2 might be coming. It'll actually be really nice if we can get like the smothered mate with queen g1, but not gonna be the case, I guess. Okay, playing rook f8 though. If he actually invites me though, I would gladly accept this invitation. And queen e2. Perhaps this is best. Hitting queen, hitting checkmate. He can't take my queen because of rook f1, and yeah, that's kind of game at this point. Yeah, just going for the mate, which is pretty nice. Thanks a lot for making it this far into the video, and in case you're looking for more episodes from the same series, make sure to click one of the videos that will appear on the screen. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you around on the channel. Take care.